Matt Carney says, Daze, in regards to cooperation and competition, do we feel a natural balance exists within a company so that hostilities do not fester? Well, that balance is, I think, a wonderful way of wording it, because, I mean, my mind would go straight away to the likes of a Britt Baker, right? Who at the moment was at the very top of the tree in AEW. I know this isn't quite WWE related, but there's plenty of WWE examples, yeah? So she was at the top of the tree in AEW, and, you know, at that point, really, she's working with girls that are working with her to make her look good. She's making them look good. Ultimately, most of the time, she was the one being put over, and obviously that was working in her benefit. But there was obviously cooperation with, like, you know, you work together in a match. A wrestling match is so interesting because it obviously is presented like you are working against each other. And that's, you know, exactly what they're trying to make it look like. But in actual fact, it's just full cooperation. I mean, they are talking. I mean, you see it, don't you, quite a bit where they're talking to. I mean, there was a moment in Braun Jacob where Braun pointed to the ropes to basically tell Jacob, go to those ropes. Go over there. I'm going to do something now. And he was telling him where to go, and Jacob did it, right? And then, obviously, I saw Gunther talking to Jay. When Jay was down, Gunther was telling him the finish. And he was telling him, like, we're going to wrap this up now. Let's, you do the splash. Go for the splash. He was probably saying something like, splash, pin, power bombs, go home. Something like that, right? And that's exactly what we got. Jay hitting the splash, going for the pin, 2 counts. Gunther with the power bombs, 1, 2, 3, go home, done. And that's the finish, right? So, like, they are constantly working together in the match and trying to protect each other, of course. And we know, like, Big E's injury, you know, horrific. But that was not, you know, it's not like Ridge wanted that to happen. So, yeah, cooperation, there's a lot of cooperation. But the whole thing, there is real competition because everyone is really fighting for those top spots. We know what Hogan was like politicking, trying to make sure that no one took his top spot. And, you know, I think this is where Britt Baker has struggled because I feel like she was the woman. She was at the top of the tree. And then just over time, I don't know if it was due to injury, but over time, she's just slowly found her stock falling as new women have come in, like Mariah May, like Jamie Hayter, like Toni Storm. You know, these women have come in, and she now finds herself nowhere near the top of the card. She is not the be-all and end-all that she was just a few years ago. And I think that has, you know, seemingly caused frustrations in the locker room. There's lots of reports of, like, bust-ups in the locker room, the women's locker room being quite toxic. And to be honest, I mean, you have to learn to deal with that. You have to learn to manage that because I would say that's one of the hardest parts of wrestling. And it doesn't massively get spoken about, actually. It doesn't massively get spoken about, but you could imagine someone, you know, imagine you work for a wrestling company and there's someone there that you feel you are better than. You feel that you are better in the ring than them. You have done more wrestling than them. You've been in more promotions than them. Ricochet. Think Ricochet. Ricochet in the ring can do loads of amazing stuff, right? Amazing, mind-blowing moves. He's wrestled in Lucha Underground. He's wrestled in Indies. He's been over in New Japan. And then he comes to WWE. And Ricochet's having to watch these people that can't do what he can do, haven't got the experience that he has got, just constantly be given opportunities that he is not being given. And of course, you know, he would look in the mirror and go, why am I not getting them? And we could answer that for him. You know, maybe it's a bit to do with the charisma. Maybe it's a bit to do with the presentation. Maybe it's a bit to do with your character and, you know, maybe just constantly doing the same thing year after year after year and not really, you know, seeing much change from that was not helping him, you know. I mean, imagine if we'd had like a Prince Puma type character. Imagine if we'd completely ripped up his booking, and that's maybe out of his hands. Perhaps he proposed tons of stuff and no one was listening, right? I mean, at that point, you could imagine being super frustrated. This is a frustration. This is a side of the industry that doesn't really get spoken about all that much. You hear of little rumors of little disputes and, you know, politics and people having little fallouts, whatever. But in a way, I suppose it's quite impressive that it doesn't happen more often. I suppose in a way, it's quite impressive that it doesn't show itself more often. I think in order to get to that level, I think the truth is you have to have a degree of professionalism. And in order to just reach that level, and I think anyone that doesn't possess the kind of personality trait that's going to get you to work with others and not kind of get frustrated, I think those people are probably weeded out at the NXT level. And they probably don't make it all that far, you know, because you don't really want those people with those kinds of personalities in your wrestling company, because there's going to be times where people are not going to succeed. It's going to happen more often than not, you know, more often than not, you're going to get disappointing news. You know, it's only really very, very rare occasions that, like if you're Roman Reigns, that you're going to be in multiple WrestleMania main events and that you're going to be given the ball all the time and you're going to win loads of matches. Like, everyone wants that. But there's only a Roman Reigns, a Cody Rhodes now that are getting those kinds of things. Think about everyone else. Think about what Shinsuke has just been through, where he can't even flip and get on TV. Only to then come back and be given the United States Championship, of course. So it's very interesting, that balance between cooperation and competition. I mean, it's one that if you get that balance wrong, I think you end up in like a Britt Baker area, right? If you maybe go the other way and just cooperate too much, do you end up in a Natalya area? Is the scale like Britt Baker, Natalya? Because Natalya couldn't have done any more. Whatever you need Natalya to do, she'll do it. She is an absolute team player. But as a result of her saying, yep, no problem, I can do that. I can work with that person. I'll teach them this. We'll do that. I'll get them ready for the main roster. As a result of her not being a little tougher, not being a little bit more looking out for herself, has it resulted in her having less world titles than she should have? Has it resulted in her not getting the spotlight matches that she should have? There is a bit of truth to the notion that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, isn't there? You have to make a little bit of noise. You have to have a little bit of about you in order to get, you know, something. Like, otherwise, you're just going to get used. You're just going to get pushed around. Natalya will do it. Oh, she won't mind. She's good. Natalya will do that. And I sort of get the vibe she has suffered from that. Sort of like, you know, you look at her career, she's had world titles, but nowhere near as many as she should have had. And, you know, this is why I wanted her to win that. How did we not give her the first women's Intercontinental? Lyra's got it, and that's fine. But Lyra could have won it from Natalya. She could have won it from her at the Rumble, won it from her at Elimination Chamber. Like, why did it have to be Lyra? I'm fine with Lyra having it and running with it and having a good run. No one can explain to me why Natalya was not given that honor when that belt is so synonymous with her family because of Brett. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Perhaps she needed to stand up for herself a bit more. So, yeah, a real interesting one, that cooperation, competition. Where's that line? Where's that balance? Why don't we see more disputes? It's probably surprising that we don't. But interesting stuff. I like it. Matt, as always, shout out to you.